one. We are on.
And we are on.
One.
So,
Oh, bam.
so
Second episode. Boom, boom.
boom, boom. Second episode. We're still surviving over here. Uh, First of all, yeah. So welcome again, whoever's listening, and thank you for whoever the people pass by to listen to these crazy thoughts that we are trying to put on into video. And to that, I don't know if there are 75 people who watch or it was 3 people cycling the thing, but thank you very much. Let's go ahead and take it to 200 views so that way we can have Geo dancing some bachata, like having his yeah, his
Yeah.
previous the previous talent, right? So let's go ahead and start getting into a little bit of business. So as we have said previously, right now we are trying to do this experiment for us and trying to bring some positivity in some things, right? Trying to bring some approaches on how to consume information, how to react to certain things that are on the day-by-day basis, right? That can be from reading something to having a conversation with someone. We are not trying to bring like a definitive step-by-step of how to do things. We're just trying to bring some open up the conversation, bring some opinions and some tips that can help us to be more strong and resilient and try not to be so reactionary, especially nowadays. Let us keep in mind that while we pick a topic or we try to focus into a topic, most of the times we don't try to talk specifically about a topic. We try to talk about how to consume that thing, right? And also because it's all opinions and examples, a lot of the things or things that can be in our brains, we might forget, we might miss some things because we are not a specialist, and sometimes we just forget things, right? So for today's topic, we're trying to talk. Yeah.
Very quick about the format that we are taking in consideration right now. So today, Ferna will be the presenter. Okay. So generally, either me or Ferna we bring a topic, and one of us will present. The other one will listen to what the presenter will say, and then we start having a conversation. So yeah, sorry for interrupting.
No. That's part of the deal. So yeah, so getting into the topic. So as the title suggested, we are trying to bring a conversation in terms of populations, group of people, and words association and to them, and also a little bit of the how that creates the identity, right? Now, as a species, we have this tendency to classify everything, right? Initially, or the most basic form can be identified from: is this going to allow me to live, or is this going to threaten my life? In more complex versions, we introduce concepts such as is this good or is this bad, or morally good or morally bad, right? But those tend to be more complex things. Now, when we classify, we identify an object and we assign a word and we create a concept into that, right? Now, understanding when we go into the most complex versions of describing something, and this part of is it good or is it bad, that will eventually will let us to build an identity to something and take us or make us approach us in a certain way, have a certain type of interaction. Now, why is this important to be understood? Because that's exactly what in a way define how we interact with other people, how we see other people, and even sometimes how we try to understand other people. And at the same time, this is a very dangerous path, right? Because there have been a lot of examples when certain populations or certain groups have been labeled entirely as a completely negative thing, and that creates actions that are against any human right? Let's not go ahead with an example. I think that's pretty obvious, right?
Right.
So now, just as a very quick exercise, right? I would like to do one of these words associations thing, right? We have to admit something. This is a redo because yours truly over here messed up for something, and this exercise was so well planned from my side, and we got a very nice reaction that I don't think I will be able to have it right now, but we'll try to get it.
I would call it karma. You try to fuck me up, karma, man.
That's not how it works. That's not how it works, people. Get it? No. So, the idea over here is that I'm going to, because we are talking about word association and populations or groups in general. Initially, I told you a country, and I ask you, tell me describe it with one word.
Okay.
Here, I won't do a country.
Okay.
Yeah, but I will tell you about a group of people.
Mm-hmm.
I will give you a sentence. No,
Okay.
I will not give you a sentence. You will give me a sentence, right? I'll allow you to describe in one sentence, right? So let's go ahead and do it.
Okay.
Environmentalists.
Wow. So I have to give out a sentence, right? Environmentalists, people caring a lot about the habitat that is hosting us.
Okay. How about journalists?
Wow. Clickbait.
That's a word. Clickbaity people. Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
I don't want to give a sentence.
We'll take it. We'll take it. How about Catholic?
Damn, you want to bring on the fire. Okay, Catholic. It's getting personal. Conservative people that see their idea of laws, extraterrestrial laws, as the only ones to be accomplished.
That's a long sentence, man. But okay, okay.
It's going personal.
How about how about fashionista?
No, about what?
Fashionista.
Which is someone that likes fashion.
Yeah.
Okay, so fashionista is well someone that cares too much, in my opinion, about the aesthetic.
Okay, so as we saw right now, yeah, like there were a couple ones that were easy, right? Environmentalist is like, yeah, it's like people who care about our habitat and that kind of thing. So someone could easily think that this is a productive thing. Actually, I do my best to not classify things in good or bad, but if it's going to be productive or beneficial to the species or to the community or to the population, yada, yada, yada. Yeah.
Which
So,
relates to what you said at the beginning. I mean, providing good or bad, it will provide different feelings and etc. etc. So
yeah. So,
yeah.
on your concept of environmentalist is, it was kind of easy. It's like, yeah, let's go through it, but it was a little bit more of peace. Let's put it that way, right? For some reason, and you can tell me, like with journalists, it was more of a comedic thing, right? It's like and even the smirk that you're doing right now it's just like those people, right? But immediately when we hit with the Catholic, so
I mean,
And this is the part that was so important about the example, right? Is while having words associated to groups can be important, it is also really important how we feel about about the given words, right? And what are we putting? Because that's the actual driver. We can put words associated to a group, but in combination of the feels, let's put it that way, that's when the final hit comes in into how we are going to be interacting with that, right? And that's super important. Now, this was just examples or just a game or whatever. So I will encourage you to start thinking at the end, because as we said before, it's only just if you flip it out, right? So at the end, you will do the same. So now I'll give you some time to think, okay? Now, moving forward into this. So all of this, if we are paying attention, it's very easy to identify as you are talking about stereotypes. And yes, we are talking about stereotypes. And sometimes people, when they talk about stereotypes, or when the word comes out, we try to avoid it because it's also labeled as something negative, right? But those things are really important because they do speak truth in a way. Yeah, in a way. Yeah, information exists not by itself. It's because we are describing it. And it is very important that we pay attention to this, to these stereotypes to these words, for the reasons that we've been mentioning, right? Now, the main example that I loved, or that inspired me to bring this topic over here, is in native communities, native or indigenous group, whichever word suits better for the people, who are usually seen, traditionally seen, in a way that they are like the less socially evolved, let's put it that way. Like they are the ones who have less, like people sitting down in computers like you and me, who live in big cities or in metropolis or so on. Yeah, sometimes we forget that what we have is a way of development, right? And this doesn't diminish other type of knowledge or diminish the identity or diminish the existence of other groups. Now, the whole conversation with this is because most of people will associate positive characteristics to those groups, but in a way that feels like we are apart from them. Like difficultly I hear someone trying to thrive to be like a tribe in like some kind of tribe or some kind of population, an indigenous population, right? Like I never heard, and this is important, right? This experience, I never heard someone wanting to be like a Raramuri. Raramuri is an indigenous population from Mexico, from northern Mexico, right? I never heard that. Or it's Raramuri or Tarahumara. What I have heard is the word Tarahumara used as an offense. Like, you are an idiot. And I think that's really problematic. I know I'm so super woke into this. But
yeah, but I mean, I can relate also in say here in Italy, for example, when you use like indigenous, someone is in an offensive way, like you are less developed or etc., what you were saying. So it's generally associated to kind of a lower progress or less developed way of interacting with people. So yeah.
Yeah, so usually what happens here is that because we have a culture, let's put this in this concept, a city culture, right? Mm-hmm. So we think that everything related to progress, development is in terms of our view, right? But we do not necessarily see most of the things that the communities, in indigenous communities or small communities have. Yeah, like they are not necessarily need to be like indigenous people, right? You might have certain populations who have immigrate somewhere else and they have developed properly, right? Now,
I think it all relates to the belonging. Like you feel like you belong to a certain way of society,
mhm.
and whatever is not as similar as where you are belonging, there's something different that, in most of the cases, is considered like, I don't know, if
Yes,
good, but inferior
yes.
or less developed, etc., because it's not similar to your belonging.
Yeah, that's a very animal trait that we have, and we also need to acknowledge. It's come back again to the introduction where I was saying about we have the habit of classifying things. Like this is coming from survival things. So yeah. So as soon as this thing is different from me, yeah, I will react differently. But because we are also complex beings, we can go further than that, right? Uh, and that's where we need to be putting a little bit of effort. Now, once again, what give me the idea of talking about this is, I mean, it's not a new thing. At least not a new thing that I know. Is like the actual value that these people can bring to us. A moment ago, you described environmentalists as the people who try to keep us alive in our habitats, right? Well, indigenous communities have been, especially in the 2000s, extremely involved, yeah, in conservation. Yesterday we were talking about the war of Finland. Right? How do you describe Finland? And it was like tall people, or we can associate it to industrialized place or a very developed place. Well, never in my life I thought the word native could be associated to a place that I also imagine to be more developed, but it does, right? And it was so great to hear about this and how the people from the urban areas or the conservationists from urban areas are working together with these communities, right? And what they are saying is that while we as scientists, we are bringing all the knowledge that we know, all these measurements, all this kind of stuff, right? They need total support from the population in their knowledge, and that's a part that we lose completely as urban populations, right? Like we forget that these people actually live there. Like in my in a lot of experiences that I have, this argument comes over and over and over, especially when you work with ranchers, right? Like somebody comes from the outside to try to tell me what to do when it's me, the one who's been living in this land, right? And this example does not apply only to Finland, right? Is the whole fight in the Amazonians? It's in Mexico. It's in Africa.
And that's the most inflectionated is, for example, New Zealand with Maoris and other Pacific communities, in which the government itself understood properly that they need the knowledge of natives in order to to conserve the habitat and all the environmental knowledge they have. So they're actually putting in place some agreement, treaties to develop the inclusion of these communities in the government work. So
in the government work, right? And that's also really important, right? Is like this is another thing that surpasses by to like this is workforce that serves to the economy of the country or of the given territory, right? Which is something that happens in a lot of national parks in Africa, in multiple countries, right? The one mentioned to me was in Yeah, I forget one. I know that in South Africa that you have those, right?
Yeah, also
But
in Kenya, for example, with Masai,
mm-hmm,
uh, a community they they operate in parks, safaris, and etc. So those are natives communities. One of the most famous, in my opinion, Masais, and they operate together with the park, etc. And they bring their knowledge and their skills.
mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah, and well, so yeah, so that part is like the recognition of the actual value of the communities, right? And see what words we are associating to them. It's important, right? Another classic example that comes to my mind, and this doesn't have to do with indigenous people, is um, cowboys, right? The rural people, farmers. They usually tend to be seen like the less intelligent one. Like they don't know anything, right? Which is a shame, because in a lot of countries, rural area population, it's the population from rural areas. It's like the majority of the country, right? But we sometimes live in the Twitter sphere or the whatever internet sphere, and we think that's the world, and that's not the world, right? So it's like just always keep in mind what do we think about certain people or how do we feel about certain people, and look at the words that we are using or we have associated. And the last point that I wanted to bring, let's see if you can help me more with this one, because I just did the kind of the mistake, is the part about the recognition of the identity of the group, right? Usually when we talk about minorities or native or indigenous groups or certain types of population, right? Like we don't take the effort to recognize the name of the person, of the not the person, of the group, right? For example, what I just did is a lot of the times we just refer Africa as if it was a country, right? And no, it's a continent. They have diversity. They have different things. They have different languages. They have different everything, and we do not take necessarily the time to put the name and and consequently the recognition from themselves, right? What do you think?
Yeah, and if you, as you were saying, if you don't have, like, if you don't take time to understand and to give proper dignity to a certain identity of certain community or whatever, it's lack of interest.
Mm-hmm.
So you are.
Taking in consideration, obviously, that it's going to be impossible, or at least for a normal human being like us, to know specifically about everything. But like when I mentioned that I just did that mistake, is that it could have been, I could have done a bigger effort that if I want to bring a national park from the place, to remember the name, either from the country or the tribe or whoever, right? And sure, that happens a lot. They like putting all the people in certain boxes, like indigenous from Bolivia, and we think they are all the same, and they are not, right? So
Being like neglecting something, being ignorant about something is not to be blamed about.
it's
But as soon as you realize that you have been not knowing anything about that topic, and you realize there is something you can know, then I think is your mm, it's kind of a must to give that topic the importance of an existence. So
yeah,
just in your
and
mind, you have to know that it exists, and you have to give dignity to it. So
yeah, it actually kind of outside of human populations. I actually that's part of the game that I have with a friend that she is like um, she's a marine biologist, and she's all about cetáceos, right, and dolphins and all of those animals, right? And part of the game of insulting the whole group is exactly that one, right? It's calling them like they are all the same. Yeah, they are all the same. I don't care. So, but that is a game of bigotry, right, against a species of marine that is like super diverse, right? But in the day by day, like sometimes we don't take
this last input to go to the conclusion. So, what can we take from this conversation?
So I will say that we have mentioned it, right? Is we need to be aware. We always say it also, be mindful of how do we refer to certain groups, to pay attention to words that we are assigning to certain groups. It's okay. It's okay in terms of understanding that it's something that we all do. We might do not like the given group. Yeah, we might disagree with that. But if we want to progress into a less conflictual society, is look forward to reduce the word, the non-productive or negative words to a given group, right? Because that is it's one of the baselines of creating all conflict, right?
Yeah, and we'll use this point to relate to something you said before about stereotypes. So stereotypes, they exist because certain information exists. Okay, they're not created out of nowhere. What I think is very it can minate the coexistence of groups and etc. and different identities is when you create feelings around the stereotypes.
Sure.
Because stereotypes itself can't hurt anyone. What hurts is the feelings that someone relates to the stereotype. So when you are having a stereotype about someone, about a community or whatever, population or a country, if you have feelings, if that stereotype creates feelings on yourself, on the way you will interact to the community, that's where the problem is. So it's very important to associate the right word to an identity, community, etc. But also to take in consideration the feelings that it will bring up within you.
Sure.
And there is word association and feeling association associated to that word.
Sure.
The real-time interaction with the community, taking in consideration communities.
So fair enough. I'll leave it like that. Any other comments?
You will not, because we have a game.
Okay.
You wanted to.
I'll try to think.
I will give you just two. Okay, first one. Cups.
Cops. I cannot answer. TV series, right? Oh my gosh! I don't want to take too much. I'm trying to think. It's
Maybe I should.
No. Hold it. It was coming up. It was coming to me. The angels are speaking to me. Necessary group that we need with high empathy and education.
Wow, that's. I wouldn't say anything. I like that. Last one. It will be. Humans.
Tribal animals.
Okay, that's all for our second episode, and we hope you will enjoy it.
We hope so. Any other comments or feedback? We will read it. He knows how to read. I know sometimes. So thank you, and
we were on.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Ciao.